everyone. Welcome to the Zone to Speak podcast. I'm your host, Juliana. Before we jump into today's episode, I have got some amazing deals just for our Zone to Speak listeners. You can get 35% off Frey Skincare for skin that sweats, 10% off cyclist, the best e-pump in the market, 10% off Cold Age vitamins and supplements, 25% off Genki Wellness nutrition package, and 15% off Omri supplements, all by using the code ZONE2SPEAK and the links in the episode description. These are my favorite brands, and I'm excited to share this exclusive discount with you. So check them out and let's help you reach your health and performance goals. All right, let's dive into the episode now. Welcome to Zone to Speak. Today, we are honored to have an extraordinary guest, Jaco Van Gass, a Paralympic gold medalist, world champion cyclist, motivational speaker, and true inspiration. Jaco's story is one of resilience, determination, and triumph. After sustaining life-changing injuries while serving in the British Army, he not only overcame adversity, but he excelled in the world of cycling, achieving incredible feats on both the track and the road. In this episode, we dive into Jaco's journey from soldier to elite athlete, exploring the mindset and discipline it takes to rise to the top. He shares his experiences competing at the highest levels, his approach to pushing boundaries, and how he continues to inspire others through his story. Get ready for an inspiring conversation with a true champion, both on and off the bike. Let's dive in with Jaco Van Gass. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's a true pleasure to be on here.
Well, I'm so happy you made the time. Thank you so much. And if you can take us back to your time in the British Army and how that shaped who you are today. I remember we met at migration race in Kenya, and I was in such awe of you. I didn't even know who you were until I Googled it, your name, and I saw like you're such a big champion, but you are so humble, so approachable, and so nice. I also got your book, and it'd be great if you could share a little bit with the listeners all the way back into your time in the British Army.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you. Yeah, well, I was South African born, grew up here all my life. And I left school, I did a little bit of part-time studying, and we had a very small family business. And I worked a few years for my dad, but I just had this craving of I wanted more, and I wanted to do something totally different. And I craved independence as well. And I was like, it's going to take me so long to kind of get into my own flat and move out of the house. And I was just like, oh, I want everything now. And anyway, a long story short, I've always had a passion and an interest into the army. And my sister at that time lived in the UK. And she said, well, there's quite a few South Africans joining the army. Why don't you look at that as an option? And because South Africa is part of the Commonwealth, that enables us to join. We do a few more background checks and security checks, but so anyone from the Commonwealth can join the British military. So I just thought, you know what? That's what I wanted to do. When I was growing up on a farm, on my grandparents' farm, I've always loved the outdoors. I loved fieldcraft, camping, shooting rifles and stuff like that. So it almost comes natural to us to be in the military. And yeah, so I sold everything I had. I had a pickup truck, and I had a back then it was called a hi-fi. And okay. it was like, it was basically a CD player. And, you know, a few little bits like that. I sold everything I had, and I took the money, bought a plane ticket to the UK, and it was a Saturday. I landed, it was like late June. I landed beautiful summer Saturday in the UK, and the Monday morning I was in the careers office starting the first paperwork.
Wow.
And, you know, as they say, then kind of went through the system and went through my basic training up in, I think it was Gatwick Garrison, up in the north. And this was my first real experience of the British winter. So I'm freshly out of South African winter. And then suddenly I'm experiencing temperatures as low as, 5 or 6 degrees. And in the morning, we have to go for a run, and you're only allowed to wear a t-shirt and a PT shorts and trainers. And I was freezing, and I was like, oh my God, what did I sign up for? But I managed to get through it.
I would not make it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
Honestly,
right now.
it was such a big culture shock. And I remember even also the accents. My corporal that was training me was from Scotland, and I could not understand a word he was saying. So he would shout a command, and then I'll be the only one standing there going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what he just said. And then I'll get extra like a punishment training because I didn't do what he asked me to do. I got really fit in the end, to be honest. So that counted in my favor. But yes, I went through my training and then I went to our battalion. So I served with the parachute regiment in the British Army. And I actually spent a few months in battalion. And the one day I was on training and a corporal came up to me saying, right, you have been selected. You need to go to the Cullimans and go get your stuff. You're going to Afghan in 2 weeks' time. And I was like, oh, wow. So that was very quickly. So that was my first tour to Afghanistan in 2008. And I loved it. I was just a young guy, a young private soldier. And all this information and this new place, I was just taking in and learning. And I loved every second of it. So I spent 6 months there. Then I was 6 months back in the UK, or about 8 months. And then I deployed back to Afghanistan again in 2009. So the first tour I did in 2008 was I was there. We did some operations, we did some missions and stuff like that. But the main role why we were there was to train some of the Afghanistan forces, to give them a skill, to train them and to make sure that they are to a capable ability to go and fight as well against the Taliban. So it was quite a bit of a mixture. But the second tour in 2009 was a purely operational tour. So we were there to fight, to push the Taliban back, to gain ground, and to do whatever we needed to do. And again, 5.5 months in, I loved every second of it, absolutely every bit of it. And then we had a mere 2 weeks left before returning back to the UK. So we deployed on what was most likely one of our final missions. It was a very successful mission, a very successful operation, and heading back into the desert to where the helicopters were going to pick us up and fly us back to safety, we came across a Taliban stronghold, and which we weren't even aware was in the area, and a big firefight broke out. And about 45 minutes into what's quite a severe firefight at this stage, 2 RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, was fired from my left flank. The first came over our heads and exploded in the distance, and the second one was fired low and just bouncing and ricocheting off the ground. And I can just see in my night vision goggles this red glow heading towards me, and the sound of this rocket just getting louder and louder. And I just knew this was going to be really close, really close. And I just reacted to it. So I turned my head away and I twisted my back to the oncoming rocket. So that night I was attached. I was helping out a sniper. So I carried these, what we call telescopic ladders. So telescopic ladders, loads of people have them in the house as well, or loads of tradesmen as well, because they fold up really small and you pull them out and we can climb onto a wall or onto a building. And we attach a little backpack to it so we can put it on our backs when we running around and maneuvering around. So luckily that was part of my job that night. So I had these set of ladders on my back. And as I turned my back towards this oncoming rocket, the rocket made impact on my back, but partly the ladders as well. So the ladders took a big chunk or big brunt of the impact. And then the blast blew me about 3 or 4 meters away from where I was originally. There's a lot of dust, a lot of shrapnel everywhere. Stuff is on fire. Very confusing situation. And about literally, it must have been seconds, and you realize that, right, something's not right. And as I was trying to sit back up and hold my rifle in the correct firing position to return fire to the enemy, I was just, my rifle just fell to the ground. And then I looked and I realized that, oh my gosh, my left arm's gone. So I then laid that down, and then I tried to apply self-help. I tried to put on a tourniquet, but I was so shocked and kind of disorientated. I couldn't do it that tight enough. Very quickly, luckily, a friend of mine came crawling over. He helped me with the tourniquet, and then he radioed in for a medic. And then a medic came and then started treated me. And he basically saved my life that night, because I sustained quite a lot of injuries, which I didn't know until much later on, till in hospital. But I was losing a lot of blood very quickly. So they treated me and they pretty much saved my life. We luckily managed to get a helicopter in about half an hour, 40 minutes after I was injured. And again, also luckily, I was the only severely wounded guy that night. There was a few other guys that had small injuries, but I was the only one with like really bad injuries. And then we managed to get some helicopters in, and they flew us out. And it's on that helicopter I just lost consciousness. I think in my heart I knew we're safe now. That we're in a situation. Yes, and I could let go. I could relax, because on the ground I was just like, just listen to the medic, do whatever he says, do whatever he wants, just be very aware of him. And then once I could relax, I was like, oh, okay. And then, I basically lost consciousness then. And then I woke up, I think 6 days later back in the UK. So, which was very confusing. Very confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot even imagine. I think no one can fathom what it is to be in war, being attacked. And I mean, you have amazing survival skills, because I think most people just pass out at the moment, but you still up, and you and your friend were able to save your life. Thank goodness. But also waking up in the UK, probably still things were still surreal, like it was a dream or something, to wake up to be in the hospital in that situation without your arm and the other injuries you suffered.
Exactly that, because like I say, my last clear memory, I remember actually being in a firefight, and I remember losing my arm. Because I looked down and I saw my arm, that memory was there. So for me, being in a hospital makes sense. I was just thinking, okay, maybe I'm in a hospital in Kabul, or maybe I'm in a hospital in Kandahar, or even Bastion. But I thought I was still in Afghanistan. And then seeing my friends and my family around me, I was like, no. I don't want them here. These military camps, they get attacked every single day. They fire rockets, they fire mortars. Someone always try their luck. So it's never really safe in these big military camps. And I didn't want them there. But then with my family and the doctors, they were like, no, you're back in Birmingham. You're in the UK, you're in Birmingham, you're in a hospital, it's all safe. And I remember they actually had to wheel my bed to a window so I can just look out the window and visibly go, okay, this is not Afghanistan.
Okay.
So my brain was like, okay, cool. Yeah. We're in an okay place. But I didn't believe them. Wow. So because, like I say, it was just, you bounce from one place to another, and then suddenly there's a big gap in, your memory and reality. So that it was very strange. But once I saw that there's trees and there's other buildings and I can hear cars and see other people, I was like, okay, yes, that set my mind at ease.
I can't imagine. I had a bike accident, doesn't compare, but I remember when I realized I lost my tooth, my front tooth, I started to cry. I mean, it doesn't compare. I wasn't in war. I didn't lose a limb. So I can't not even compare how big this is. And how do you find the strength, like from your recovery journey to become this elite athlete? I mean, you have broken so many world records, countless gold medals. What was that journey like?
Yeah, I mean,
because it wasn't overnight.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a very interesting and a strange journey. But again, if you came into my room that evening, or even within the next 6 months or 8 months of my rehabilitation, and you say, Jaco, one day you will walk again, because even at that stage, I sustained quite severe injuries to my left leg, and there was still the possibility of potentially losing my left leg because I had infections and I've lost so much muscle and tissue. And then if you say, Jaco, one day you would walk again, you would run again, you would do a number of marathons, and you'll ride your bike, you go and climb mountains and, all the stuff I've done, I would say there's no way. There's absolutely no way. Look at me. I couldn't even feed myself, and I had, catheter, and I had colostomy, and yeah, everything seems so far beyond being able to do this and to achieve everything I've done till to this day. But I think the thing is, I was just taking everything day by day. I had a quote that someone sent to me, and it said, life is 10% what happens to you, but it's 90% how you respond to it. And I thought, wow, that's so powerful. And that's it. And I just thought, my future and my life and everything that's still to come is solely depending on me about how I will respond to what happened to me now. And I just had to take it day by day. But every day I just had to work towards getting a little bit better. And, some days I had big jumps and other days very small. But I always moved towards bettering myself from the situation that I found myself in. From, like I say, just, okay, the next thing I want to get rid of the colostomy bag, or I want to move from my bed into a wheelchair. I want to go from a wheelchair to a Zimmer frame. I want to go from a Zimmer frame to fully walk solely on my own. And that was my goals. And that's how I motivated myself. And like I said, then the goals just started getting bigger and bigger. And I was like, okay, well, if I can do that, I can do the next thing. But it was all day by day. And like I say, and then it ended up that I trekked to the North Pole and I attempted Everest and I climbed to, North America, South America, all over the world, all over Europe. And then I was in the phase of leaving the army. We just came back from attempting Everest, which we sadly didn't get to the top. And it was summer 2012, and London was hosting the Paralympic Games. And I lived in London at the time, and I went to see some of the games. And I was so blown away by the atmosphere and the athletes. They were performing at such a high level. And at that very same time, I was going through the process of actually leaving the army. So because of my injuries, I couldn't have a full military career anymore. So I had a lot of doubt of what do I want to do? Where am I going to go? And I came back from the Paralympic Games. And I was like, you know what? I would love to be a Paralympian. And that was my next goal and challenge. So,
Wow.
yeah, so that's how I then got into. Actually, it's a funny story. I actually went and I trialed out for para-tri, because the next games will be in Rio in 2016. And that will be the first time para-tri would be inaugurated or included into the games.
Wow.
And I thought, I'll give that a go. And then I went for the trials, and my swimming was so bad. I was swimming in circles, and my run was not much greater. But my bike was I've always loved riding. Even as a young kid, I always loved bikes. And then my bike was just so much stronger that the tri coach went, listen, you got talent. We can work with you, but your bike's so much stronger. Maybe just ride bikes. So I was like, okay. So I did that. And then I went to British Cycling and did a trial day there. And basically, as they say, the rest is history. I then got onto the team. But actually, like I said as well, the aim was to go to 2016 to Rio. And I didn't make the team. I didn't get to the team I missed out. But eventually we got there for Tokyo and Paris. So yeah.
Yeah, and then you cleaned out.
Yeah, I mean, wow, it took so much work and dedication and sacrifice.
Yeah, it's good for people to listen to. It just doesn't happen overnight. Don't give up, like you came out of a huge injury, super traumatizing event, and you had the strength, the courage to set small goals and not only walk, but run, then be on a bike, and then you try for the team. You didn't get in 4 years later. You go to the Olympics.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's just in my heart, that was the goal, to go to the Paralympic Games. That was my aim. That was my goal. And I actually love the analogy, because when I attempted Everest, Everest is really hard, very tough. and it takes a long time to do. And you have to acclimatize to the higher altitudes, and you have to go from base camp to camp one, and then that's very tough. Then you go back from camp one to base camp, then you recover. Then the next time you do base camp to camp one, it's a lot easier. And then you go camp one to camp two, and it's very hard. You come back down, and you constantly go up and down, up and down, up and down. And eventually you reach the summit. So basically, I said that day in the stands in 2012, watching the Paralympic Games, I was like, right, my next Everest is to go to the Rio Paralympic Games. And I didn't get there. And, that was maybe just a part of like, oh, I have to come back down. It's when you learn from struggle, you actually become stronger. And honestly, I was heartbroken because I sacrificed so much, but actually during that time, that's 4 years, I was also learning how to be an athlete. So that was, because you go from the military to being an athlete. It's very similar, and there's a lot of stuff that the military helps by being an athlete. But also I was almost like too much of an athlete. I sacrificed too much. I lived this very strict, down narrow line, life where friends, I lost friendships, I lost relationships. I was just so focused on this one thing. And I was constantly burned out as well. I didn't have a balance between recovery and training. I was just training. And then when I didn't go, I looked back on it and I was like, wow, I didn't actually enjoy especially the last, I would say, the 12 months to 15 months leading up to the Rio Games. I really did not enjoy riding my bike. I didn't enjoy the process. So I learned a lot from that. So then I knew I need to find a balance.
Yeah.
And then once I found a balance, I became an even better athlete. I became a happy athlete. So yeah. And then they say a happy cyclist is a fast cyclist. But it was all about finding a balance. And that took me a long time to find. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go through that we think that we need to give our all and train as hard as we can to be the fastest and the strongest. But truly, there are many pillars that go into the recipe. And the more I talk to people and to doctors and specialists in the field, it's really all those pillars, and recovery is one of them, and also being social one of them. We are humans, not just athletes. We need the interaction. We need to rest. And I love what you said. I just want to go back. I love what the correlation you made with, alpine climbing, that you have to go up and down for acclimatization.
Yeah.
Instead of saying it's a setback, I'm acclimatizing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it didn't hit you, like you said, Of course you were impacted by it. Didn't feel good not to make the team, but it took as an acclimatization.
Exactly. It's, it's when you lose a race, or you get injured, or, you have illness, or again, you don't get selected to go and represent, whatever country you're representing, because you train so hard. But then that disappointment is an element of acclimatizing, learning, getting stronger. Well, you can look back at, why did I lose that race? Was I technical enough? Maybe I didn't have enough speed. Then you can go to move forward. You can learn from it and go, well, I need to work on other areas to then be better. Or why do I not get selected for a race? Speak to the coach and go, what is it that I'm lacking? And then, so those setbacks is actually it's areas of growth, that's possible. You can then eventually become a stronger, better, faster athlete. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I cannot imagine, would love to hear from you, what is the behind the scene look like of being in those big events and the preparation for such a high level competition like the Paralympics?
Yeah, gosh, it's it's very intense, to be very honest, because like you say, for 4 years, the Olympic and Paralympic Games for any athletes is the pinnacle of our sport. So obviously we're not at the level of Tour de France and much of the bigger races. So for us as track cyclists or road cyclists within the lower categories, And especially for para athletes, I think all around the world, for any sport, we don't have the support systems that some of the able-bodied guys do. A lot of our competitions doesn't get televised. So for us, this is just once every 4 years opportunity to showcase, how good we are, how strong we are, our sport, and just show to the world that, almost anything is possible. And I think that's what I love about the Paralympic Games, because even I, as a injured or, a guy with some form of disability, even I sometimes go and look at, you're in the Paralympic village and you see so many amazing people and how they carry on with life and how they adapted to life, where I'm like, wow, that's even inspiring to me. But yeah, it's been amazing because we just looked into so many things. So over the course of actually 3 years, we tested stuff every single year. We have almost like a skeleton kind of training plan. And then we're like, right, we're going to do certain, exercises over this period of time. And then we're going to focus on this, a lot more gym work. And then about 3 years ago, I started introducing hypoxic sprints into my training as well, closer to competitions. So that was a very interesting added extra because they absolutely destroy you. So it's 3 weeks.
What is that?
3 or 4 weeks of hypoxic sprints. So basically, you go into an altitude chamber and you do a very, very hard workout. So basically, you're forcing the body. So they actually say hypoxic sprints is the poor man's altitude. So basically, if you don't have enough time or the capacity to go and live at altitude for long periods of time, you do hypoxic sprints. So you go into an altitude chamber and you do 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, or 10 seconds on, 15 seconds recovery, 10 seconds, as hard as you can. And it's a number of, so basically you're draining, you're forcing your body to kind of create red blood cells. Yeah. To kind of, like you say, just to man up and to kind of go force them to create red blood cells to then recover quicker. But it has a huge effect on all your other training because it absolutely depletes you of because you then have to recover. So then all your other training sessions, you are so tired and your power drops dramatically. So because it's not until you freshen up, so you go out of the altitude and you start going normal training for a few weeks, that all that kind of benefits come through. But for the meantime, you feel so depleted. I can't even explain. And every year I forget how hard it is. I always forget just that 3-4 weeks. It has such a big effect. So then my time on the track, I can't keep my splits. And then obviously that mentally starts playing with you as well. You think, I'm 2 weeks out from a world championships and I can't keep, an average split that I used to ride before. And then like anything, you do your taper, you freshen up, and then you go, wow. But we played around with that of how long we do hypoxic sprints, how far out. And over the course of 3 years, like I say, we got it wrong the first time. I actually got really good form about 2 weeks later after our world championships. I was like, okay, right. My legs feel amazing. But when I did the world championships, I felt I was still too fatigued. So then the year after that, we shifted everything to the left. And then we nearly got it right. And in the third year, we actually went back to Rio for our world championships, which was amazing because obviously I didn't get the chance to go there for the Paralympic Games. And then I have the opportunity to ride that very same track for the world championships in 2014. Sorry, 2024, earlier this year. And then I won the Pursuit world title. So that was like, oh, wow. Imagine if I could have gone back in 2016 if, you always wondered, but it was just nice to kind of having gone to that track in the same conditions and the same track that everyone else did and then get a good result. But then also that gave me a lot of confidence going into this year's Paralympic Games in Paris, that I'm the world champion in an event that I want to do. And we got our kind of training spot on. And then it's really just like a copy paste and make sure that everything else is in the right place. But yeah, you obviously look into your diet. Your social life takes a big step back. You start traveling less. You start getting paranoid when people around you are ill or have a cough. There's so much that relies on just being absolutely top form on the right day, the right moment. So it's actually quite stressful, to be very honest. And then obviously the Paralympic Games
I'm
in
sure.
itself was just amazing. It was well organized. But I also felt like I just had this perfect 10 months, probably 10 months to a year of, I just had consistency. Everything fell into place. I just had this steady climb in my form and fitness. Everything was great. And I actually said to my wife, just before we left for Paris, I was like, I've never actually felt so well prepared. And I think in my heart, I felt I stand a good chance. And I said, if someone beats me, they are by far the better rider, and then, kudos to them, because I just feel in a good place, and I feel, I'm nervous and, stressed, but I've done what I can do. And I think that, and to be honest, you can't slack on anything. It's your sole focus. And I think that's the most important thing, is that if you want to be the champion, if you want to be the best in the world, it has to be your sole focus for quite a considerable amount of time, really. And yeah, so I went into Paris feeling good. And then 7 days later, 7 days before the race, I actually got knocked off by a car. And I went,
No.
we did a recce of the road and time trial course. And I did 3 laps. I was very happy with it all. And I was on the way to where the buses were parked, where they're going to pick us up. And this guy was in a static parking space, and he didn't look, and he just pulled out right in front of me, and I went flying over the bonnet. Eventually in hospital, when I called my wife, I was like, when I said I had that perfect 10 months, I was like, yeah, it just came to an end very quickly. But yeah, we were luckily, I had a bad cut on my head, a few injuries to my leg, but we were still in a place where we could ride, which was, I could still compete. And yeah, and we came away with the gold medal still. So yeah, it was okay.
Can't believe you got run over by a car 7 days before the Olympics.
But that's as crazy. Well, that's testing. And I think I've had so many ups and downs over the years, and it's literally, as we said, it's what you learn from the hard times, it's what you learn from the bad times, that, sometimes you go, I've been here before, I've had a setback before, and this is the things I need to implement to move forward. And that was literally that moment. I had so many ups and downs, all over my life, but since being injured and then obviously being a professional cyclist, you deal with injuries and crashes and stuff like that all the time. And I actually laid on that floor after the car hit me and I went flying over the bonnet. I was actually calm for some very odd reason. There was no anger in me, because I knew in my heart that nothing is going to change the situation that I'm finding myself in at that very moment. We can't go back in time, and I can't swerve out for the car, or the car, for him just to actually look where he's going. None of that's going to happen. So I just have to be present in this moment. And I was unaware of any injuries at the moment, at that time, but we will go to hospital, and what will be, will be. I knew in my heart that if I race, amazing, and I will still give it my all. And if I can't race, then for some odd reason, there's a reason that I shouldn't be racing. And yeah, it was this quite a surreal experience. And even when I called my wife and say, don't freak out, but I've been hit by a car, and told the whole story, she was going, oh my gosh, and panic. And she's like, have you hit your head really hard? Because you sound really calm about it. You don't seem nervous about it. And I was like, I have hit my head, but yeah, I was just fine with it all. And yes, and I think that saved energy as well. That was the thing. I was just like, I didn't want to leak energy out of a situation that I can't change. So the best way for me to heal and for me to be in the a better place for if I will eventually ride is to just stay calm and take everything as it comes. So yeah.
Yeah, you're so strong-minded. And I also believe in that too. Like if something happens, one, if it's out of my control, it's not going to do any good stressing about it. Like you said, you take all your energy out of what you needed to put in, which was the competition. And also, if it wasn't meant for you to be on the competition, then that's what was the best outcome, I guess.
Yeah.
But you did go and compete, and tell me how many gold medals?
Yeah.
Because I know there were a bunch.
Yeah. So overall, we now have 4 Paralympic gold medals. So 2 from Tokyo and 2 in Paris, which is amazing. You know, I've even myself, even if we go back to Tokyo in 2020, just I went into that Paralympic Games just to win a medal. If I win a bronze, I would be the happiest guy in the world. And I came away with 2 golds and a bronze and 3 world records. And I was just like, okay, that was just incredible. I don't know even how I did that.
Mind blowing.
And the only sad thing from Tokyo was there was no crowds. There was no family allowed due to COVID. And that was the one thing that drew me, because I was inspired by London. The crowds, the athletes. It was the most amazing atmosphere ever. And I just knew that this was not the perfect Paralympic experience that I dreamed of. What was that? That was nearly 8 years ago, from Tokyo backwards. So I knew I had to go again. And when I won, everyone's like, okay, that's amazing. But the bigger challenge is, can you retain those titles? I was like, oh gosh, I never thought of that. So that was a big challenge. So for me, it was like, I want to go to another games, retain my titles, but also, even if I just want to go to another games and have a full games experience and not be isolated and not have a COVID test every morning and have friends and family there, even just to experience it. Regardless of the results, I just wanted to be in a velodrome and look up, and I want to see my wife's face, and I want to see my sister's face, and I want to see my best friend's face, and so many other people. And that for me would have been the perfect Paralympic Games. So coming away with 2 golds and 2 world records was, again, just the perfect game. So I am totally happy.
Yes, I guess Paris was good because of that. You were able to have all your family there, and you won gold again, and you broke the world record again.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I broke my own world record.
Right.
Yeah, so Finley Graham, a teammate, he broke my previous world record by a couple of hundredths of a second. And then I rode just after him in the qualifiers, and then I took it back. So I put another 2 seconds on top of it. So yeah. But that's exactly what happened in Tokyo as well. But yeah, so exactly the same situation happened in Paris. And then the only thing is, like I said, and then with the bronze medal, it's a very confusing race. So I then also did the 1 kilometer time trial. So 4 laps as hard as you can. But this is a factored event. So I compete against 2 other categories, which is more severely disabled than me. So then this is where the UCI then give them almost a time bonus. And they worked the factoring out, but the factoring was very much against me. So even in that event, I broke the world record, my own world record again, but I came 4th. So I know it's very confusing for people. They go, how can you break a world record and not even win a medal? I was like, well, sadly, it's just how the factoring system works. And it showcased that they don't have it quite right. And hopefully the UCI will notice this and go, we need to be more, I don't know. We need to figure out something that's actually more fair. So so it makes sense. And then the day after that, I had the mixed team sprint. So myself, Katina Cox, amazing athlete, Jodie Cundy, truly amazing athlete. We had the team sprint and we won gold in that as well. So yeah, which was brilliant.
Congratulations. Incredible achievements. I'm in awe of you and your determination. And I know for fun you do some gravel.
Yes. Love gravel.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, we met at like I said, the migration race in the Masai Mara, and you were there kicking ass. What's one of your favorite places to ride gravel? Because also you're from South Africa, and South Africa is also breathtaking, beautiful.
Yeah, so that's the thing. gravel is growing in South Africa because South Africa is very mountain bike orientated. We have amazing mountain biking over here, and gravel is making a very big comeback. Well, a big impact on races now. And I would say Africa is my favorite continent. So be that the Masai Mara, be that in South Africa, be that Namibia, there's so many unexplored kind of new countries to go and ride your gravel bike, and you've seen with migration, when they mean we're going the back road, they mean we're going the back road. You're literally riding through wildlife. There's elephants, there's zebras, there's giraffes, there's everything. And that for me is, the true beauty of nature. And I think that's why I love Africa so much. So not just Kenya, not just South Africa, not just the other place, but I think Africa in itself has so much to offer for cyclists, and especially gravel. And I can't wait to explore more my gravel bike and to see future gravel events entering Africa.
Yeah, I agree with you. Miguel and I have been to Kenya, and then we went to the race around Rwanda, which is also beautiful. Yeah. Tanzania. I did the Ironman, so different, not gravel, but I did the Ironman in South Africa. Also so gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah, it is a beautiful continent, and there's so much to explore. I would love to go back to the same places or explore new places.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. And yeah, just going back when you said also that you also get inspired in your own event, seeing other people doing it. Yeah, it's super inspiring for me as well when I see, someone like you, or, anyone, obviously. So many stories are inspiring, but sometimes, in Ironman too, you see someone that it's an amputee or it's 80 years old and then they are finishing, a full Ironman, or they are in any type of cycling competition. It's really a motivation, like, oh my gosh, I need to do it as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think there's so many amazing people, in the world, and everyone kind of have their own boundaries and their own kind of, I always like to say, when I do the keynote speaking and the presentations, my challenge to everyone is, what's your Everest? What's that pinnacle? What's that one thing you want to go and achieve? And again, know that it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be setbacks. But as you said, you need to acclimatize, and there's a system. And if you follow the system, you can achieve absolutely anything you set your mind to. And I know my challenges is usually quite big and quite, out there. But, for other people, a challenge might be, like you say, to run a 5K. That is a very big challenge for a lot of people. And there's a system that they have to put in place, and they have to train very hard. And for other people, it's, ultra marathons, or it's, like you say, Ironman. And, everyone has them all their own kind of challenges and things that they find hard. But with the support of people behind you and family members, and know that you're not alone, you can achieve absolutely anything. And I think that's what the world shows sometimes. Like you say, people 80 years old running Ironman, in my head, I'm thinking, when I'm 80, that's probably the last thing I want to do. I probably won't be able to even run or walk by that stage, but these people do. And because
exactly,
they are so, they like, I'll show the world that an 80-year-old can do this. And he's showing me exactly that. He's proving me wrong, because I think, no way can people do that. I think in my mind, I won't be able to do that when I'm 80. But they show you that you can, at any age, at any stage of your life, you can do absolutely anything. So it's amazing.
Amazing. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can start small. When someone comes to me, it's like, oh my God, I would love to do that, but I can't. I'm like, you think I started doing ultra cycling? No. I started walking around the block. Then I was walking 5K, running 5K. Then I started, doing the tiny little races, then a tiny little triathlon, until Ironman, and then ultra cycling. And I still struggle, obviously. It's just for fun, mental health, but
that's it.
It also didn't happen overnight.
No. Exactly that.
And you are a big inspiration now for many. How do you take that responsibility?
Yeah, like you say, I actually see it as a privilege as well. And it also comes with an element of responsibility. But I'm quite pleased to be in a situation like that, because I think if by my actions and almost just by living my life to the full, that I can inspire someone, as we mentioned just now, even if they can see what I do or read what I do or hear what I do and have accomplished and achieved purely by just living my life, and it helps them to overcome their challenge. Be that even, there's a lot of people they're scared to go to the gym. They have a phobia of walking into a gym on their own. Or like I say, to go and walk 3K or do a park run. And if I can play the smallest step or have the smallest impact possible for them to just go, I've seen what Jaco's done. Maybe I can do it as well. And it's just that one step forward towards doing something and being active. Then yeah, that's amazing. And like I say, it's actually quite a privilege to potentially have an impact in someone's life for the better, for their well-being, be that physically or be that mentally. Then yeah, it's a true great honor, to be honest.
That's beautiful. And are you involved in any causes or initiatives that you would like to share with our listeners? Maybe some people also would like to get involved.
Yes, to a degree. I think for me as well, I think it's just the importance of health and well-being. And I've always said, if you're physically fit, you will be mentally fit as well. It follows on. And again, like you say, you don't have to go and climb Everest or run a marathon, but even just moving the body, I think it's so important. And we've seen that with some of my involvement in the Invictus Games, which is a truly remarkable setup, because we've seen so many guys that had no purpose and had no drive and had no reason almost to wake up in the morning. And then you tell them, well, you are now going to be a member of the Invictus Games, and we want you to run the 100 meters and to be part of the sitting volleyball team. It gives them a purpose. And suddenly they go, right, but I want to be as best as I possibly can for the 100 meters, or I want to be that sitting volleyball player that can smash the hardest. So they then go to the gym and they take a walk around the block, and suddenly you can see even their mental fitness and mental health improves. And then they go and partake in something amazing, and they feel that they worthwhile again, and they have a purpose in life, and that they can serve their country again, be that on the play of, sport, on the sporting field, but not in the military, but they have a purpose once more. I think that's so important and that's so amazing. So I always encourage people to stay active and to do something. Do something with friends as well. You don't have to do a lot of things on your own. I think it's a community. It's amazing. It's so strong. So yeah, I would always encourage people to, just to move the body.
Yeah, I agree. It's so important. And I love what you said about purpose. I was talking here on the podcast with this pro mountain biker, Sona Luni, and she talks a lot about purpose, and it's super interesting, to what are you doing? Is it for yourself? Is it for a bigger cause? Just to check in as well, and keep going. And it's super important. I agree.
Yeah. No, it's so important.
And what does a typical day look like for you now?
Well,
like
a typical day,
or on season, off season, because they are different.
So on season, obviously, we just came from the Paralympic Games, so I would say that was pretty hectic. So that was always, just again, get as much sleep as possible. Recovery is such an important phase of your training and to be a professional athlete. So as much sleep as we can. I'll wake up. First thing is coffee and breakfast. Then get some training out. I always feel like I train better in the morning. Sometimes life is a little bit busy and I find myself writing emails, whatever it might be. And then to try and motivate myself to go out in the afternoon, it's so hard. It's so hard. So yeah, so I tend to try and get my training out in the morning. But the build up to the Paralympic Games, we had a lot of double days because again, I had such a busy schedule. And also a lot of the events is qualifying and finals. So it was all about actually teaching the body to perform twice a day, and multiple days. So, but also, yeah, to recover, but to be as fit as you can. So I actually had a long schedule of having double days, riding in the morning, gym in the afternoon, or riding in the morning, track in the afternoon, or double track day, or, whatever it might be. But it was constantly teaching the body to perform, recover, perform again. So yes, that will be
and do you know in the competition when you go? Because I was watching the games and I kept on thinking, oh my God, the athletes they're waiting must be nerve-wracking to deal with the anticipation of when they're going to go and just be waiting there. But also, obviously, also the physical as well. Like you got to be warmed up. And how does that work?
Yeah,
because I'm also a morning person. So for me, having to, if I had to race at 8 p.m., I don't know.
Yeah. So that's exactly like you say, it's quite a hard one. So we will know the schedule, as in when you'll be riding, what days, quite far in advance. But like you say, the more finer detail of the timing doesn't get actually published till much closer to the games. I would say only like a week, 2 weeks before, when we actually get a finalized, because even the tickets that family members buy, you get a morning session and an afternoon session. They don't even tell you that, again, you don't buy a ticket for 10 o'clock for Jaco's race. You buy a morning session and you buy an afternoon session. So then it's or an all day session, basically. So the tickets kind of vary. So it's not until, quite later on, till quite closer to the games, that they would finalize the schedule. And then that's only a rough guess, because then you have a schedule, but then it depends on how many athletes have entered and how many athletes, each nation has brought. So, and then depending on the disability as well. So, something like the tandems, they're really big bikes, there's 2 people. So they take a little bit longer to set up and then to kind of get off the track, because they go so fast that for them to actually slow down, they take a few extra laps. So tandem events are always longer. So it's actually not until the evening before that again, it's a guess time, but it's a much closer one. So my coach would go, okay, you're in the first heat of, the second session. So that's roughly 9 minutes past 10, considering we run on time, so then there could be a crash, there could be a delay, so you have to, so what I do, I tend to just go 2 hours before of my roughly scheduled time. And then I have a system of when I get dressed, when I eat, when I drink, when do I start my warm up. And then if there is for some reason a delay, I can just keep jumping back onto the turbo and kind of turn those legs around. We also have like heated pants as well. That kind of keeps the muscles warm and stuff like that. But yeah, you have to have quite a little bit of flexibility as well on the day, as, within the Paralympic Games. So yeah, you just got to almost stay calm as much as you possibly can.
Wow, that's nerve-wracking. I remember my triathlon days, just waiting for my wave to start. It was such a build up, and then you have to just go and swim as fast as you can, and your heart is already, my heart at least was already racing at so many beats per minute. So
yeah, and then like you say, you see all these other races before you. So as you warm up, you see other guys compete, maybe even some teammates, doing well, doing bad. You always constantly as well. They come off and you're like, what's the track like? Is it fast? Is it fast? What does it feel like? How's the corners? You always try to gather information of what it's like before you go up. So they're like, oh yeah, it runs very smooth, stick to the black line. Or you come out of this corner, there's a bit of a wind from a door that's maybe open somewhere. And that kind of, it pushes you off the track to make sure that you kind of react to that. So yeah, you always gather as much information as possible before you go up with teammates. But like you say, there is a nervous anticipation as well when you're just sitting there warming up and you see all these races going on, and there's world records getting broken. There's people, all over the place, and emotions is everywhere. Some people are crying, some people are happy. The crowd was incredible. It was absolutely, the French crowd was, whenever a French rider stepped onto the track, they shouted the rooftop out of that velodrome. And it was just incredible, like I said, but it's actually quite tiring because, like I say, there's so many senses and stuff happening that you kind of just almost have to try and keep yourself to yourself. And like you say, have music in and kind of be in your own bubble, because otherwise I think it's very easy to kind of be distracted. But so, yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it takes a lot of mental preparation. And I guess with time, your experience now, have done this a few times. I guess yourself, your body, and the routine you want to have during those games. But just watching for me was always nerve-wracking. Me too. It is. And what's next for you in cycling and beyond?
Yeah, so it's one of those times and areas where you do go and you question, like, what is next? And, again, when you have such a clear goal and a focus for the Paralympic Games for a year, 2 years out, and everything is driven to that, suddenly you're like, oh, what do we do next? But, I have such a big love and passion for gravel that, that's one thing I want to slowly, and again, I do road racing, but I'm more focused on the track cycling stuff. But I would love to kind of break into the longer endurance events. And yeah, so basically next year we've got some really good events. I've got time for the tracker, which is great. So we'll see you guys in Girona again. We'll come and say hi. I've got a place for Unbound as well, and also
Cool.
Yeah, Unbound, and also Badlands as well. So Badlands is actually the one I look forward to the most. I'm not sure if disabled rider has ever partaken or finished it. There might be a little bit of research to be done there. But again, I'm not doing it because of that, but it's just I've been fascinated by it. So yeah. And then beyond in 26, like I say, I want to kind of start even longer and bigger stuff than that. But as you know, you need to build the body up to it. You need to kind of break into that. You need to push the body to limits and learn, what's right, what's wrong, kit, equipment, bike setup. So it's a whole new world for me to kind of go into that and explore that and see how we can actually potentially perform in those arenas. So yeah.
How exciting. I will be super happy to cheer you on all those races. I done Badlands, but not the race. I did the route last year with Lael Wilcox. She had a rally with I think we're about 70 of us, just women and anyone who identifies as a woman. And it's a challenging course, to say the least. And the logistics there, I think, is harder than the course.
Yeah.
Finding food and water.
That's it. Yeah.
You have a good time. You're in for a treat.
Yeah, but like you say, it's something so different and something so challenging for me. And that's why it's actually also so attractive as well to say, can I do something like that? How will I react to that? The first 1 or 2 days is fine, but it's when you have little sleep, like you say, looking for food all the time, water, rationing it, it's, looking after your equipment. Yeah, I've got a big learning curve to that's coming, but it's exciting. So we look forward to that.
I think you do really well. You have amazing survival skills, so you'll be good at it.
I kind of bluff my way through it as well. Like you say, it's just survival. I'm just like, I'll just plod on and survive through it.
Ultra is really about survival and adaptability. I think whoever has that and the threshold for pain, you're in a good sweet spot. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I just have now some fun rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Favorite cheat meal?
Favorite cheat meal? I would say burger, especially Five Guys. I don't know if you guys know Five Guys and stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I know Five Guys.
Absolutely love Five Guys. Yeah. So that's my favorite cheat meal when we get them in.
Nice. Sunrise or sunset ride?
Sunrise. Love a sunrise. Yeah. I'll rather get up early, see that. It actually wakes you up as well, but it's the most stunning view. Yeah. Love a sunrise.
I agree. Sunrise just gives us such a boost of energy.
Yeah, definitely.
Gravel or track?
Oh, gravel every time. Yeah.
One piece of cycling gear you can't live without.
One piece of cycling gear, I would say, oh gosh, that's a hard one because obviously there's so many. It must be chamois cream. Yeah, I can't.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, it's a good. I just think if you're going to go anywhere fast or long, that you need to be comfy.
True. Favorite pump up song before a race?
Oh, Lenny Kravitz, Are You Gonna Go My Way? I love that song. It gets me.
I love Lenny.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, he's such a cool guy. He's an amazing artist as well. So yeah, that song really gets me going.
Cool. And a cough stop would be mid-ride or straight through after the ride?
I mean, both is probably the best answer, but I would say for this, I would say mid-ride. Love a coffee stop mid-ride. And if the coffee stop's longer than the ride itself, that's even better. That's a good coffee.
I love that. And most inspiring person you have ever met?
Oh, goodness me.
Since you're inspiring so many, who is inspiring you?
I mean, that's such a hard question. I've been so fortunate to have met so many people in my life. I think, gosh, Cavendish comes out in my head thinking about it because I think he's just gone through so much. And I relate with a lot of it as well. I've read many of his books, and again, for him, just his comebacks all the time, and he's open and honest, and he's such a straight down the line guy where, he says, my mental health is bad, my physical health is bad. And then he just pulls himself together and, his team just trusts in him and he goes, right, I need to do this for you. And, he's amazing. I think he's an amazing guy, amazing athlete. He wears his heart on his sleeve. So yeah, I would say Cav must be up there. And I've met him many times and yeah, he's a nice guy. I think he must be up there.
Yeah, I met him once when cycling wasn't that big in Dubai. I lived there, I think it was 2014, and he was there for the UAE tour, but it was like nobody was there. So it was cool that I could meet him. And yeah, I've been a big fan. And actually my favorite part of the Tour de France, this last Tour de France, was him winning his 35th stage.
Yeah,
I was just jumping up and down. So happy for him.
Yeah. And the year before that, when he was winning multiple stages, and I remember the day so clear. We were constantly, me and my wife were like following it avidly. And when the news broke, I was somewhere. I must have been on a training ride myself, or I did something, and the news broke saying he crashed and he broke his collarbone. And I remember the whole of the world because that was meant to be his last year. That was his contract ended. And then Astana went, we will give him one more year. We will get this record. Because everyone was like, you have to come back. You have to come back.
Yeah.
So, which is just incredible. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so happy he did come back. Anyways, Jaco, it's been so lovely to talk to you. You're such an inspiration. I'm sure there's going to be so much more coming from you to inspire. And I look forward to seeing you here in Girona for the Traca.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to share my story with you and a few little insights into my life. But thank you for having me and for listening to me. And yeah, I look forward. Let's grab a coffee when we're in Girona.
Sounds great. Enjoy South Africa.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And that's all for today's episode. I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. Your support means everything. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends.